What if I told you that in just the last 24 hours, artificial intelligence quietly crossed another invisible line, not with a dramatic explosion or a science fiction moment, but with benchmarks, tokens, and trade-offs that most headlines completely miss? OpenAI has just released GPT-5.2, and depending on how you look at it, this model is either a major leap forward or a clear warning about where AI progress is really heading. In the last 24 hours, OpenAI released GPT-5.2 along with a wave of record-breaking benchmark results. On the surface, it looks extraordinary. In reality, it is far more nuanced. GPT 5.2 is not a miracle model, and it is not pretending to be one, but it is without question one of the most capable language models ever released. The key detail many people miss is that to achieve frontier-level performance, GPT 5.2 often needs more thinking time. More thinking time means more tokens. More tokens mean more compute and more cost. That single fact changes how we should interpret almost every benchmark score being shared today. Think of it like receiving an expensive gift without knowing whether it was carefully earned or bought on credit. Some of these results will age well, others may be overtaken very quickly by newer models. Still, GPT 5.2 is genuinely strong and deserves a serious analysis beyond hype. At the top of OpenAI's release page is a bold claim: GPT 5.2 thinking sets a new state-of-the-art score on GDP-Val and performs at or above human expert level. According to OpenAI, it beats or ties top industry professionals in 71% of comparisons across 44 occupations. That sounds enormous, and it is, but only if you understand what the benchmark actually measures. These tasks were created by industry experts, but they are primarily digital knowledge work. Any occupation that relied heavily on physical interaction or undocumented intuition was excluded. Only a subset of tasks from each profession was tested, and full task context was given to the model in advance. Even OpenAI openly states that real-world work often involves tacit knowledge, information you have to discover, intuit, or learn through experience. That complexity is missing from the benchmark. Another limitation is that catastrophic mistakes are not fully captured. If a model makes one serious error, benchmarks struggle to reflect that risk. So no, GPT 5.2 is not replacing professionals tomorrow, but for structured digital tasks like research analysis and document creation, it is becoming extremely capable. In real-world testing, GPT 5.2 performs particularly well at structured research and synthesis. When asked to build a football interaction matrix, compiling match results across an entire league season and organizing them into a clean, structured format, the model delivered accurate data and a correct interaction matrix. The results were manually checked and cross-verified with other models. Accuracy held up. However, when the same task was given to the base version of GPT 5.2, not the Pro tier, the model failed to create the interaction matrix. It could gather the data, but lacked the reasoning depth to structure it. The reason was simple: a smaller token budget and less thinking time. This highlights one of the most important truths about modern AI performance today is increasingly driven by test time compute. How many tokens a model is allowed to use while thinking. More tokens mean more internal reasoning, more hypothesis testing, and more refinement. On many benchmarks, performance improves almost linearly as token usage increases. This makes comparisons difficult. When one model outperforms another, the real question becomes, did it reason better or did it simply think longer? On benchmarks like ARC-AGI, this effect is extremely clear. The more compute you spend, the higher the score climbs. GPT 5.2 Pro with extra high reasoning effort reaches record-breaking results, but at increased cost. That said, efficiency continues to improve. Compared to models released a year ago, the price-to-performance ratio has dropped dramatically. What once required massive compute budgets is now accessible at a fraction of the cost. Another major challenge is benchmark selection. Different benchmarks claim to test the same abilities, yet produce conflicting rankings. For example, on MMU Pro Gemini 3 Pro slightly outperforms GPT 5.2 in chart and table analysis. But on a newer benchmark focused on realistic chart reasoning, GPT 5.2 pulls far ahead. Even well-known benchmarks like GPQA and Humanity's Last Exam have limitations. Some questions contain noise, ambiguous answers, or potential contamination. This makes it difficult to treat any single score as definitive. This is why private external benchmarks matter. On Simple Bench, a private benchmark designed to exploit known model weaknesses, GPT 5.2 Pro performs noticeably worse than Gemini 3 Pro. Even with extra high reasoning effort, it fails to close the gap. This does not mean GPT 5.2 is worse overall, it means optimization choices matter. Some models are tuned heavily for coding and math benchmarks. Others retain stronger general reasoning and common sense understanding. These are trade-offs, and no single model dominates every category. One area where GPT 5.2 clearly stands out is long context recall. On the 4-needle challenge, retrieving multiple pieces of information scattered across extremely long documents, GPT 5.2 achieves near-perfect accuracy. This places it directly alongside Gemini 3 Pro, which has long been considered the leader in this area. If you need up to 400,000 tokens of reliable context, GPT 5.2 is now an excellent option. For extreme context lengths beyond that, Gemini still holds the advantage. Zooming out, the bigger question is whether this incremental approach is really how we reach superintelligence. Not through a single breakthrough, but through steady task by task. Progress: imagine a vast field filled with sheep. Each sheep represents a human task. Instead of inventing a system that counts them all instantly, we are training systems to count them one by one. At first digital tasks, then physical ones. Robots loading dishwashers, writing code, managing workflows. Whether or not a sudden intelligence explosion ever happens, incremental progress alone may be enough. Eventually, all the sheep get counted. GPT 5.2 is not perfect, it is not unbeatable, and it is not the final form of AI, but it is a meaningful step forward and a revealing one, not just about OpenAI, but about the direction the entire industry is moving. The real question is not whether GPT 5.2 is the best model today. The real question is how many more steps like this will it take before the field is empty. GPT 5.2 is not perfect, not unbeatable, and not the final form of intelligence, but it represents something important, a steady, visible step forward that shows how progress is really happening, not through one dramatic leap, but through countless small gains that slowly reshape what machines can do. Each model counts a few more sheep. Each year the field grows emptier. The future will not arrive all at once. It will arrive quietly through iterations like this. If you want to understand where AI is truly heading, pay attention to these steps. Follow the progress, question the trade-offs, and stay engaged in the conversation, because the direction we choose now will shape everything that comes next.